Alrighty, folks. Welcome, welcome. It's just about 7 o'clock, so we can go ahead and get started with this evening's webinar. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name's Greg Chekai. I'm a new member of the K-12 education team here at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And we're really excited to be bringing back our webinar series. The topic of this evening is the Great Backyard Bird Count. And we have a special guest with us, Becca Rodomsky-Bish, who is the project lead for the Great Backyard Bird Count. And we'll get to know her a little bit more soon. Just while everybody's joining, why don't we take a moment and have folks find their way to the chat and start to respond to a couple of prompts here while we let some folks in. First and foremost, I'm kind of curious, what's the weather like where you folks are coming from? I know here in Ithaca, New York, it is a bit frigid. I see 16 degrees from Beth. Oh, yes. I was just in Pennsylvania last week. It is no joke. The cold down there. It was much colder than Ithaca, surprisingly. From Jessica in New York as well, around a foot of snow. We just got about, I want to say 7 or 8 inches in downtown Ithaca. I know the surrounding areas got a bunch more. Oh, Kelly in Virginia. I'm a Virginian as well. And I know they're getting some lower temperatures than they are used to right now, that's for sure. Has anybody been able to enjoy any wintertime activities? I know a big chunk of the US just got some winter weather. Did anybody get to do anything fun in the snow or enjoy their time off at all? Wow, a foot of snow in Brooklyn. Hard to imagine what they do with all that in the city, especially. Stayed inside. Yeah, that sounds like what I would have probably been doing. Awesome. Yeah, enjoying the snow days. Those are, some of the best part of being in education, in my opinion. Oh, yeah, digging paths for your senior animals. It's a nice bonding experience. All right. Well, we've had a few minutes here, so I'm going to go ahead and get things started. Feel free when we prompt you all with some questions and things throughout this evening to, respond in the chat. We want to hear from you all as well. Okay. So just wanted to remind everybody kind of who's bringing us here tonight. We are members of the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, um, and our mission is to interpret and conserve the Earth's biological diversity through research, education, and participatory science focused on birds and nature. And if you think about the topic for this evening's webinar, we're hitting a lot of those major points. So the Great Backyard Bird Count is one of my favorite participatory science projects. And while we're out there observing birds, we're helping to monitor and catalog species trends and things like that. And when we're sharing and teaching others how to engage with nature and participate in projects like this, we're contributing to research and we're helping to share that education component. So very excited to have everybody here this evening. I wanted to also take a moment here to talk about some of our other upcoming offerings. We're coming back from a brief hiatus away from our webinar series and some of our other offerings here on the K-12 education team. So upcoming on March 27th, we are going to be exploring bird window collisions and talk about conservation topics that are suited for the classroom, regardless of what age of students you might be working with. I know working with or discussing Earth's biological diversity, pardon me, is a common topic. So we're going to explore one of the major threats to wild bird populations, which is bird window collisions. We'll have Katie Netland joining us for that one. And later on in April, on the 28th, we'll be focusing on one of my favorite Esri products, which is ArcGIS Story Maps. It's a really fantastic way to deliver a presentation, get your students involved in map making, using data sets and things like that. Or you could keep it really simple and just have a really fun, engaging way to present to others. So really excited about our April offering as well. And I just want to turn it back to you all for a moment. We'll be offering our another webinar in May, and I wanted to ask you all, is there a topic that you've been waiting to hear come up? Is there something that you'd be interested in seeing during that May webinar? So I'll give you all just a few seconds to tell us in the chat if you have something that you would love to see during the May webinar. Okay. Shorebirds and the ocean? Yeah, definitely. That would be a great topic. Birds of prey, wildlife rehab. Yeah, thanks, Emily. That would be a fantastic topic. We have the Cornell Raptor program here that works with birds of prey in an education capacity. Migration, yeah, definitely. And that's kind of part of why we chose to do the bird window collision in March. We were thinking about birds coming back into our area here in the Northeast on their migration.
And I
Okay,
like
yeah,
the
well,
literature connections too with the birds of prey. That's pretty cool.
yeah, no, that always looking for opportunities to tie in cross-curricular education. That would be a really great opportunity. Nice. Well, feel free to keep sharing with us, folks.
Ooh, so
I
last one there that I just see, how to support students with disabilities in participating with citizen science projects. So
Wow,
yeah,
that is a fantastic topic. That would tie in nicely with our birdability initiative for sure.
sweet.
Okay. So one other thing that I want to share with you all before we really get going this evening is an opportunity to join us for our summer educator retreat. Um, we let me put some of these links in the chat. So I'll put a link here for you if you're interested in learning some more about the details of our summer educator retreat offering. This will be one that is hosted right here in Ithaca. And we're really excited to be able to offer it at little to no cost, based on the amount of donations that we've been able to have support this type of work. Let me get you this one last link here. Apologies. If you know already that you want to apply, here's this link that'll take you right to the application. And there's a QR code as well on the slide. So if you want to scan that, you can visit those links later at your own time. And yeah, we'd love to see some of you who attended this evening apply and join us this summer. Okay. So here is a brief agenda for this evening. So we're going to start things off by discussing just kind of at large, what is participatory science and what does this term mean to you all? Then we'll kick things over to Becca for a bit and learn all about the Great Backyard Bird Count. And then we'll kind of switch gears for a little bit and we'll look into some of the resources and activities that we as the K-12 education team have available to help you and your students hone in on the skills that are going to make participating in this year's bird count even more fruitful for you. All right, so I'm going to turn things over to you all again. I'm curious, could anybody tell me what does participatory science mean to you? If you were to try to define this for your students or for a colleague, what would you say? How might you describe it to them? And if you're not really recognizing this term, you might be more familiar with the term citizen science or community science. But we here at the lab, we prefer to use participatory science. Hands-on experience, students gathering data. That to me is a huge piece of this. The students are doing the data gathering, and you're right. It's a great opportunity for some experiential learning. Thanks, Kelly. Non-scientists helping do science. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Jessica. That is very succinct. It could not be more on the money there with that definition. Crowdsourcing data collection, definitely. Thank you, Laura. No, you all are right on it. And I think that, participatory science doesn't necessarily look like just one thing. But everything that you all listed are definitely components that I would include in my personal definition. Okay, so as you all said, we're really focused on how do we get non-scientists participating in science, and in doing that, we're collecting data through making observations. And do you all think, do you need to have a STEM background or do you need to have a degree in science to participate in these types of projects? So. The goal, I think, of designing them in this way, exactly, thanks, Lan, is no, you don't at all. And that's the beauty of it. And it's a great opportunity, in my opinion, to make your students see themselves as scientists and make them realize that they already are. They can improve their skills, they can get better and better over time, but they, by participating, are already scientists themselves. Um, What are some examples? Has anybody in the group already participated in one of these types of projects? Go ahead and tell us in the chat if there's any that you're familiar with, if there's any that you're a huge fan of. You could also think of platforms that are designed to kind of support this. Exactly, yeah. Good job, Laura. The Great Backyard Bird Count is one of the most well-known ones. Salt Watch and Nitrate Watch. Yes, the Isaac Walton League. Virginia Save Our Streams. Zooniverse. I haven't heard of that one before, but I definitely have to check it out now. Project Feeder Watch. Thank you, Jessica, is another really great one. Firefly Watch. Another fun one, you all might you might have heard of. It's actually less of a watch and more of a listen, but Frog Watch is a really cool one that I have heard of as well. iNaturalist, if any, yeah, exactly. iNaturalist users in the house. Okay. And aside from, using this as a wonderful opportunity to go out and experience nature and enjoy wildlife, your data really does matter. And that's the beauty of this style of data collection is that, if you think about the cost of labor and things, scientists could never in a million years afford to go out and pay everybody to collect data for them. So they're really accessing a treasure trove of information that wouldn't be possible otherwise. So I really like this photo here because it just shows students out enjoying participating in data collection, which, to some might not sound like the most exciting thing in the world. But believe it or not, the 100 millionth eBird observation was made by a 12-year-old in British Columbia. So you never know. One of your students could be participating in a project in the middle of class and be the 200 millionth observation. So, all right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our special guest. Okay, so as I mentioned before, Becca is our project lead here at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology for the Great Backyard Bird Count. Um, she is also leading a new initiative, newer than the bird count anyway, called Garden for Birds. And both of these things kind of tie into her love for gardening. She's extremely knowledgeable about native plants. We had a great conversation last week. And of course, she has a past as a science educator. So we're really looking forward to hearing everything about the Great Backyard Bird Count. So I will go ahead and pass things over to you, Becca.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for inviting me here tonight to speak with educators. I did teach high school um, for a big chunk of my past, and it was a fun experience. So I have a lot of respect for those of you who are in classrooms working with young people or outside working with young people all the time. It's a really rewarding field. So, the Great Backyard Bird Count, it was really delightful to hear and see that several of you have participated in it already. Thank you. It's one of my favorite events here that we have at the lab, and it's an honor to be able to manage it. So, the Great Backyard Bird Count this year is February 13th through 16th. And those of you who have participated before likely know that we generally run it over what is considered President's Day weekend in the US and it's Family Day weekend in Canada. And I'll just answer right up front, why always that week or weekend? Because I get that question pretty much because educators often either have the week before the Great Backyard Bird Count off with their students or the week after. And so there's generally one of the days during those 4 days where people are not with their students. So I am sorry about that piece of it, but one of the things I love to see educators do is a lot of upfront prep with their students, and then they sometimes will do a count with their group, and then they also encourage their young people to go home and do it with their family. So if that works for you all, that might be a way to sort of extend the fun with your young people if you are not with them for one of those days. But yes, it is a 4 day event. And what I love about these images here, this picture of the yellow-rumped warbler next to the dog toy. We get so many fabulous pictures during the Great Backyard Bird Count, and this one came in last year. And one of the reasons I love that image is because birds really are everywhere in our landscapes. We share this beautiful planet with them. And it always makes me feel so inspired to see beautiful images of birds alongside things that we have in our landscape. So that picture always gives me a good chuckle. And then the other image is a really sweet group of preschoolers that had a lucky sighting there of some incredible Canada geese. And so we get a lot of these images over the weekend of both birds in their habitats, including human environments, as well as really fun pictures of all sorts of people participating around the world. This particular group, I believe, was out west, perhaps in Idaho, one of the states out there. So it's a really fun event. It's meant and designed to be accessible to anybody at any level of interest in birds. It's really meant to be an inviting event. So the history of the Great Backyard Bird Count is kind of interesting, and I like to go over some of the main points of it because some of this a lot of people don't realize. Um, It is a relatively old project. This is the 29th year that we've been doing this event, and it was originally a brainchild of individuals, not myself, but others at the lab and the National Audubon Society before the era of Merlin and eBird, where people were really curious if we provided an opportunity for the public to share bird sightings, would they even do it? That was the big question. And so they decided to start the Great Backyard Bird Count to get the answer. And the answer was immediately, overwhelmingly yes. People loved this and they would do it. And so, believe it or not, that was kind of the first opportunity of participatory science that really was real-time data fed to people. So, what birds are being seen where was being shown to people. And that was pretty novel at the time. And then, this is my favorite fun fact for those of you that know eBird and use it. It actually was the impetus for the development of eBird. Because of the success of the Great Backyard Bird Count, they decided, okay, people like this. They're going to do this. Why don't we create a tool that can globally be used for people to share bird sightings so that scientists can have a better finger on the pulse of what was going on with birds and ultimately tells us a lot about conservation in general. And when the project started, it was really focused in North America, specifically the United States, but we wanted to have more engagement in Canada. And so we partnered with Birds Canada in 2009 to get a better reach in Canada. And when this project first started, though the data was real time and on the online, it wasn't utilizing the eBird tool because it was still being sort of developed and built and getting its sort of bearings, so to speak. But once eBird was relatively well established and being used, we decided to pivot over to eBird, and now all of the data goes into that database, which is ultimately much a the impact of analysis that we can do with data because we're merging the Great Backyard Bird Count data with an immense database that is gathering observations 365 days a year. So we've kind of been able to up the influence of Great Backyard Bird Count data, so to speak, by integrating it with eBird. And then actually, when I came onto the project, um, I have a love for really bringing birds into people's lives, sometimes for the first time. And Merlin is sort of the best tool for that in a lot of ways. It helps with bird identification. So eBird really requires you to know the birds that you're seeing, whereas Merlin allows you to sort of learn the birds and share them as you're learning them and seeing them. So I pushed to have Merlin integrated into the Great Backyard Bird Count, and now we accept submissions from Merlin and eBird over GBBC weekend. And as many of you know, bird watching is popular. This shadow as it moving across the screen is the sun, and every little yellow dot that you see there is a sighting that's being entered. And this is over a Saturday during GBBC. Saturday is generally one of our busiest days, Saturday and Sunday. And then as the shadow moves across and it goes gray, it will kind of give you a sense of how many people truly across the world are submitting data. It starts as early as really our Thursday in New Zealand and Australia and the islands there in the Pacific, Asia, China, India, and it just moves. And it's just fabulous to watch the world light up. We actually have a map on our homepage that will link out to seeing these sightings as they come in across the world. And my son, he's now 10, but when I first started managing this project, he was much younger, and he still loves this map. We would pull the map up at home, and he would just be in awe that, here we are watching birds outside our own windows, but look at all these other people that are participating too. So literally being able to see your impact and see how other people are engaging in real time is a really empowering feature to share with anybody, but I would say definitely for young children and people. So what do you do? For those of you who this event is not as familiar, you literally watch birds for at least 15 minutes. You can watch for multiple hours a day. You can watch every day. You can watch just one day. It's meant to be very open and welcoming, but we ask for a minimum of 15 minutes. And in those 15 minutes, what do you see or hear? And you can share that through Merlin or through eBird. eBird doesn't have a sound ID feature, but Merlin does. And even if you just see one American crow. That counts and that's important and that data is valuable and you can enter that in. These are some images. The top one there is from India, a group. We have a lot of participation in India every year. It's really inspiring. And that bottom image is actually some folks in Nicaragua. So the expansive impact of all of this data that we're learning about birds is really powerful. And literally, it only takes 15 minutes to participate. And the other reason why this program is so popular is you really can do it anywhere. Um, Birds are literally just about everywhere on the planet. So you can be at home enjoying, or maybe, cold and warming up with a warm beverage, just looking out your window. Maybe you have feeders, maybe you don't. You can share what you see. Maybe on your walk with your dog that you're clearing paths for, you can pay attention to what you're looking at. Perhaps at school during the school day, there's an opportunity to take your young folks outside or sit at windows as well. Libraries, we have a big participation. Parks, nature centers, literally anywhere this event can be done. And it's a really fun community engaging event to bring people together. Why participate? Well, aside from it's fun and it's birds, it really does help connect you to nature. I was just doing an interview the other day and they said, "Why are birds taking off? What's your short answer for that?" And I do think my short answer for that is the connection piece. In an age where we spend more time inside and in front of screens, birds find a way into our hearts because they're accessible and they're quick and they're present and they're there. And there's a deep connection that happens to the natural world when you spend time watching them, and a deep connection you have with others when you share that. In addition to that, the observations are data, right? And that's what Greg kind of was laying the foundation for. This is real science. This data is used. So that is very inspiring, especially for folks that maybe are in the education field and want to have young people realize that their observations matter. And as Greg said, we can't be there everywhere all the time, right? It's way impossible. I studied science growing up, and I used to love doing sort of destination trips with my professors to do field work, which is wonderful and important and has a lot of value. But how cool is it that we can now put people on that work too, wherever they are in the world, and be sharing things that they're seeing and hearing? And what do we learn? We learn a lot. Bird data is incredibly valuable data, and there is so much of it at this point, thanks to the eBird and Merlin tools. Not last year, we don't actually have last year's number because it's still being calculated, but in 2024, eBird data was used in 248 different scientific publications. All of those had slightly different questions and research priorities they were answering. Many of them used bird data overlaid with weather data or climate data or land use change data. We often combine bird data with other data sets in order to be able to ask and answer questions. And one of the big ones is we're paying very close attention to migratory patterns. How are birds moving? Where are they moving? Where are they not showing up anymore? Or where are they showing up that's new? We're looking at year-to-year changes. We saw this last year, but we're not seeing it this year. Why could that be? And then, of course, long-term trends are really important. So we're learning a lot from all of this incredible bird data that's being entered around the world. And as many of you likely know, there's a variety of different ways to share that data. The two most common ones are the Merlin Bird ID app and the eBird app. Both of them are free, downloadable to any mobile device that you have, including tablets if you use those in the classroom. And for those that prefer to use a computer, there is also eBird on a computer. Unfortunately, you can't enter data via Merlin on a computer, but you can use eBird. And then both tools are, I would say, relatively accessible, relatively easy to use. There are videos available on our website and on the internet that will help you if you're struggling with these tools. But for the most part, they're pretty intuitive. The one most important thing that sometimes gets people hung up is you do need to download bird packs in order to use these effectively. So wherever you are in the world, make sure that you're using a bird pack that will help you and help the tool be able to identify the birds that you are seeing or hearing in your area. And there are a few pages. The K-12 team has a great set of resources that Greg's going to point you to. We also have a few on our website, and it includes resources from both the lab and Audubon. I forgot to say that at the beginning, but this project is a trifecta effort. So the Cornell Lab works with Audubon and Birds Canada to execute this project every year. There's specific guidance on eBird accounts. That can be one of the things that educators wonder about. Technically, eBird accounts need to be made only with individuals that are 13 years or older. And so if you're teaching younger children, generally the adult or the mentor in the room is creating the account and kind of compiling the data from the young people. And we give some ideas about how to do that with groups and make it work for your needs. And there's some activities as well on our website. So check those out if you are looking for some guidance. This is a sweet group in South Carolina, actually. And you can see that the teacher kind of developed a visual of the birds that the kids are likely to see, and the kids were able to tally that. And then the teacher was able to take those tallies and share them out through our tool. So there's lots of ways you can personalize this based on the age level of your of the people, young people that you're working with, and what their needs are in terms of, do they need pictures? Do you need to have the actual tablets out in the field? That kind of thing. And then we also have a newish feature to our website is our community event map. And I love, this is one of my favorite things to continue to watch throughout the season. I think we have almost 200 events now already added. And last year, I think we ended up with about 409 events by the end of the event, or by the end of the 4-day weekend. And it's a great way to just be able to share and see where community events are happening. There are many schools that map, many libraries, and you can kind of organize and see where all of these events are happening all over the world. It's really fun. Kids often like to see that too, especially if, you have a classroom in the United States and they can see that there's a classroom in India that's doing the count at the same time. It just really makes the world feel quite small and connected. And thank you very much for the opportunity to speak about this tonight. My contact is there. You can reach out to me at gbbc@birds.cornell.edu if you have questions after this. I am going to take questions. I think Greg is going to send some questions my way if they are there. But our website is there as well, birdcount.org, if you would like to follow up and look at more information on our website. So thank you so much, and I hope many of you end up doing the Great Backyard Bird Count either with yourself or your family or friends, and hopefully perhaps with the young people in your life. Thank you so much.
Becca, thank you again. We can't tell you how appreciative we are to have you here. We couldn't be learning about this topic from a better instructor. So thank you so much again for taking the time to bring us up to speed, and hopefully we can all engage with the backyard bird count this year. I don't see any questions that were remaining in the chat, but if anybody has anything last minute that you want to ask Becca, now is the time. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything, so one more. What we did get one pop in last second. Can you count viewing from a bird webcam?
That is a great question. I've talked about this with the BirdCam team, and while we love this idea because that is in many ways a super accessible way to participate with people, um, it would create a lot of data redundancies, right? As you can imagine. And so we don't allow or encourage observing from bird cams. That said, bird cams is a really effective way to help your young people learn how to do the GBBC. So if there's just no birds outside that particular day that you want to do this lesson, you can pull the bird cam up and say, "Hey, we're going to practice how we would actually record our birds when you go home and you're going to participate over the weekend." So use it as a training tool, but entering it for the GBBC count creates some data challenges.
Great question, Emily. Thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you again, Becca. If we get any last minute questions, we'll be sure to send them your way.
Sounds great. Thank you all, and have a great snowy, warm, cold, wherever you are evening. Bye.
Okay, so let me switch things back over to my screen. All right. Hang tight with me just a second here, folks. Okay. Okay, so one thing I want to get back into is some of the resources that we offer as the K-12 education team that can help you and your students build on some of those skills that Becca was mentioning that would be helpful for you to make observations during this year's bird count. All right. So, something that you can think of is organizing this in manageable pieces. So, we're going to talk about building some observational skills. We're going to talk about some strategies for practicing and challenging yourself to make some bird IDs. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some resources that can help you get to know some birds that are in your area. If you try to learn every bird in the world, it's a little bit of an impossible task. So it can be helpful to just focus on a region or a time. So just to kind of shake the dust off a little bit, let's wake ourselves back up and take a moment to look at the photo that I have in front of you. Um, and no, your internet is not lagging. It is a little bit blurry. I apologize about that. But I just want you to focus on what you're seeing in this image. And think about what details do you have at your disposal. There's some things that you might be missing from this photo that would be wonderful in terms of helping you to make a positive identification. But you might not have everything that you wish you had. So what do you have in this image right here that you can use to help you and your students to make some IDs? Amazing. Good job. Yeah, Laura says body shape, comparative sizing, location. Those are all three wonderful answers. Bill shape, yes. Some in flight. Okay, so we're already looking at things like behavior. Fantastic. Something that I find personally very challenging, whether it be with working with students or clients, when I was an outdoor guide, getting people to look in the exact same spot as me is sometimes just as hard. So it might be just as challenging to your powers of observation and your powers of describing your observations to try to explain which bird in the photo it is that you're talking about specifically. That in of itself can be a challenge. What they're doing. Yeah, thank you, Morgan. Yeah, the actions are also very helpful. Okay, so we'll come back to an idea like this in just a moment, but I wanted to kind of get everybody activated. All right. So one of our resources that we have available, this is part of our curriculum kit, but it really chunks the information that we want to approach when we're trying to make identifications. And this really spoke to my educator brain. So first and foremost, like many of you said in that silhouette photo that we just were looking at, size and shape. That's kind of a the perfect place to start. Um, if you are able to kind of just know a few birds for reference, you can start to build the skill to say, well, was it bigger than a crow? Was it a little bit smaller than a goose? Those types of things can be very helpful. Um, in our last example, we didn't have the ability to see color and pattern, but once you're moving past size and shape, color and pattern is definitely where you want to spend some time to make some positive IDs as well. Um, and then when we're moving down into habitat and behavior, we're talking about things that are more skills that I would say are built over time or through experience. And so they're not just shown in this way because it's a pretty way to draw the poster. They're also shown in this way, and it kind of reflects the order of operations in the Merlin app as well for drawing an ID. This is kind of the step 1 through 4 that we here at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology recommend for teaching folks how to ID birds, whether those are whether you're teaching yourself or you're trying to pass that information on to others. Okay, so as we were just talking about, it can help to have some sort of reference point when you're seeing a bird flash past you in the field. You can use this scale that we've devised to ask yourself, where on this continuum does the size of this bird land? So we picked some pretty recognizable, pretty common birds in North America. So on the small end of the scale, you have a sparrow. And notice, there's birds that are smaller than sparrows, so there's room in front of that one. We've got our American robin, our crow, and our goose. So you can kind of judge, was that thing between the size of a crow and a goose? Maybe like a raptor, a hawk, or something could fit in that section. So it can be really helpful for making associations regardless of skill level. I made sure to include this slide for this evening because I really love the way it starts as an image and kind of fades into being a silhouette. So whether it's a bright sunny day outside and you're looking through a pair of binoculars and the yeah, it's not doing quite what I want it to. How about now? Is it fading into a silhouette for us? Okay. Thank you for that. Um, Sometimes you're looking through a pair of binoculars and the sun is full blast behind where the bird is, and you can't see any of that stuff. So size and shape are definitely going to be your starting point when you're making some IDs. Proportions are also very helpful. So I'll look to the chat here. Does anybody notice anything beyond the color and the plumage and the shape and the size of the bird? What about, yes, thank you, Emily. That was fantastic. So long legs. What else might we notice? Long neck, definitely, definitely. Long bill. You all are very observant. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Heather. So yes, these are all fantastic things to notice, and to me, once you've noticed those initial size and shape, color, and characteristics, you can start to have some more advanced question asking. Ask your students, what do you think a bird with long legs like that? Where does it live? What's a habitat that you might find that in? What type of diet do you think a bird with a long neck and a long, sharp bill might eat? So then you're really starting to spark that curiosity. Okay, so I'm ready to give everybody a chance to put their identification from silhouettes to the test. All right, so I'm going to give us just a moment here. And please try to contain your excitement just for a moment. We will have a chance to see the answers to all of these, but I want to give you all a chance to just kind of look at each one of the silhouettes, focus on a few different things, and I'll go through each one, and then in the chat, let me know if you think you know what that is. So I'll give everybody about, 30 seconds or so. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started with number one. And if you're not finished, that's just fine. So who thinks they can first off tell me what bird they think that is? And secondly, go ahead and tell me what features you focused on that led you to that ID. Okay, seeing lots of folks. Great horned owl, great horned owl. Very nice. Focused on the ear tufts. Yep, the posture. Very nice. Yeah, so exactly right. So that's definitely an owl silhouette, and you all listed everything that I was hoping to list as well. So fantastic job. Let's look at number two. What are some things that you might look at, and what do you think we might be looking at in the first place? Okay, see mallard duck, webbed feet. Yes, squatted body. Yes, the bill. Good job. Very nice. Yeah, so I can't speak to which specific duck type this might be, but I definitely would say a duck, and you all nailed it. The body proportions, the bill, the webbed feet, across the board. Yeah, definitely. I agree. I don't think it's a shoveler. All right. So what do we think about number three? Nice. Beth says woodpecker, long beak and clinging to its perch. Very nice. Woodpecker could be. Yeah, I see nuthatch as well. Um, Definitely some sort of bird that's clinging to the tree bark. It's got a long bill for probing. Yeah, some more folks who are leaning towards woodpecker. Yeah, I definitely was looking at, the tail feathers are kind of almost like serving as a kickstand for this bird. It's got a sharp bill. And in this one, we do have a little bit of a clue from the habitat and the perching posture as well. So yeah, I would definitely say woodpecker. Uh, so let's look at number four, and I'll go ahead and tell you this one is not necessarily one specific bird species. But what are some things that we could look at to help us out? Very nice. Yep. Okay, so Karen says we're looking at a songbird. I could not agree more. Beth, you're right. It does have the proportions. It very well could be a robin. I'd be very curious to know what the artist used as inspiration when they were drawing this. Ah, very good, Laura. So Laura said it's perched on some sort of twig. So again, we're looking at habitat. We're also looking at a little bit of behavior, and songbirds do have pretty distinctive little feet. Okay. Yeah, very nice. So you all just, blew my expectations out of the water. Thank you for participating. And, just fantastic job. But I hope you saw that it could be a really fun, challenging activity just to kind of put some silhouettes up on the board and let your students do the work with their creative minds. As I promised, I'll give you some feedback on the rest of them. So on the next slide here, it will have some answers. Okay, so our goose that we talked about before, a little bit longer on the legs, a little bit longer on the neck, got that kind of squarish, boxy head. Our hawk, if you said another type of raptor, you wouldn't necessarily be wrong. Some of these are pretty general. And yep, of course, our hummingbird. Okay. So, one of the resources that we have available as the K-12 education team, where you and your students can practice these skills, are our Explorer's Guidebook. So, this was a resource that was designed primarily for K through fifth grade. And it's kind of a resource that you could do with students. Students could access this on their own and use it as kind of like a field guide of activities when they're out exploring in nature. And I will go ahead and put the link in the chat for everybody to be able to download. And one of my favorite things about this resource is that we have it available in multiple languages. So it's available not just in English, but it's also available in Spanish, French, and Portuguese. Okay, thank you, Leanne, for putting that link in the chat for us. And as I mentioned before, we can make observations with more than just our eyesight. So, another thing I love about this resource is it focuses on the idea of sound observations. And the really cool activity is simple but effective, making a sound map. So, thinking about where am I in relation to other sounds, which sounds are coming from nature, which sounds might be coming from construction or road work, and reminding our students that we're able to observe the natural world with all sorts of different senses, not just our eyesight. And of course, if you're looking to dive a little deeper, learn a little bit more about some of the birds in your area, All About Birds is such a fantastic reference. This is something that I relied on very heavily when I was an outdoor guide. Um, it is the perfect balance of information and little tidbits of memorable facts that's personally how I latch on to memories is I have a little story that I tell myself about that thing. You can see from the slide that I'm showing you here, each species that is shown in the All About Birds has a species account, ID info, range maps, calls that are shown in their sounds, and other sort of vocalizations that are going to help you make IDs. So, fantastic resource. And if you're looking for things that you can do with your students, how can you get them to retain some of this information? Maybe you use a resource like All About Birds for them to do a little bit of research, to do something like making a game of local bird bingo. One of my number one strategies as a science teacher to have my students work on skills of observation was to have them draw because you really have to focus on the details for that. Okay, so with that, we're coming up on our time. So I wanted to turn things back over to you all and open it up for an opportunity to hear questions from the crowd. And so, yeah, I'll go ahead and look to the chat. He does look like he has a question. What? Okay, so we have a question from Emily. What is a reasonable kid's binocular slash monocular that we recommend? We have two main types of binoculars that we use here at the lab. Specifically the K-12 education team. We use Celestron and Knox. And depending on your age of students or how many students might be using them, I would maybe recommend one over the other, but both are fantastic. They're high quality, and they'll definitely be able to help you make the observations that you're looking to make in the classroom.
And one thing I would mention with that is the reason I said I'd say Celestron a little bit more than Knox, even though Knox are great as well, is the pieces. The Knox pieces can fall off and they disappear, whereas binoculars that have all the pieces attached to them, it's easier, it's less likely that they will, and they come in cases that are a little bit sturdier. So I think for the long term, it's easier to store them as well. So that's the only reason why I would say Celestron a little bit more, just because I don't want pieces to go missing and I want to be able to stack them and make sure that I keep them for a longer period of time.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Leanne. Keeping track of things in the classroom, like little lens caps and stuff, can be can definitely be a challenge. We have a couple more questions here. So, some interest about the birdability program. I'll see if we can get you a link here in the chat, Karen. But if not, I'd be happy to send you some more information after the end of this evening's meeting. What's the youngest age that we recommend introducing binoculars? This is a question from Heather. Um, Honestly, I would say is personally, I don't see why you couldn't introduce it to a child whose eyes are able to fit the binoculars themselves. And that's kind of where the binoculars might come in for students or youngsters that are having a hard time finding the focus. Binoculars can be a great tool for accessibility as well. But yes, I use binoculars all the time with my niece, and she's just now in first grade. What magnification on Celestron do we recommend? Um, when I think about the numbers that you see with the binoculars, I focus less on how far they're going to focus and think about how wide the eyepieces are, especially for smaller students, younger students. It can be hard for them to get the binoculars close enough and still have a nice clear image in some of the larger ones. So that just might be something you want to consider. Okay. You see any others? Stuffed animals are a great idea. Yeah, no, totally. And we've gotten some creative input from folks who are requesting binoculars. I've used them to look down at stream beds when I'm on the other side. You can use them to observe plants more closely. There's a million and one ways that you can explore things up close. It doesn't have to be a bird, and it doesn't have to be up in the sky. Oh, thank you so much for being here this evening, Kelly. We're really excited to be back. As I mentioned, we're kind of coming back from a brief hiatus. Leanne and I are both new members of the K-12 education team, and we couldn't be more excited to be here with you tonight. Yes, those bird cams, those can be really helpful tools as well for you to explore some of the resources that we mentioned. And yeah, so there's not always birds right outside when you need them. So sometimes the bird cams are helpful. All right, and as we're wrapping things up this evening, I just wanted to put up some information about us as a team, some of our social media information that you feel free to give us a follow. We post about all sorts of resources and offerings. For example, our educator retreat, our Celestron binocular giveaway. Those are things that we would definitely advertise through our socials. Um, and don't forget to sign up for our upcoming webinars. Um, yeah, and as always, feel free to reach out anytime. I'm gonna go ahead and tie things up for the evening, but just wanted to say thank you again for being here tonight, and we look forward to seeing and hearing from you all again in the future.